Welcome to Thinking Like a Lawyer with your hosts Ellie Mistal and Joe Patrice, talking about legal news and pop culture, all while thinking like a lawyer. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Hello, welcome to another edition of the Thinking Like a Lawyer podcast. I'm Joe Patrice from Above the Law. I'm joined by my colleague, Catherine Rubino.
Hi, Joe Patrice. How are you?
Good. It's it's another day.
Yeah, it's another day. We're inching ever closer to Election Day, which seems like pretty good news.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're coming down the stretch. We're, as of right now, as we're recording, I am putting the finishing touches on yet another drinking game that
So you're going to kill us all.
Everybody will have already cursed me over by the time this comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you did one for the VP debate and you did one for the first debate, not the town hall, the dueling town halls, which, by the way, very surprised that Biden had higher ratings than the Trump town hall, but I'll take it. So, are you going to go 3 for 3 and absolutely knock it out of the park this time?
I'm trying not to hurt people. We'll see.
Please, Hammer, don't hurt us.
It just keeps, there you go. It just keeps getting worse. Yeah, so we are coming down to the end of that. There's obviously a lot going on. We've got confirmations, hearings happening. We had
they've been advanced to the
floor by unanimous vote. That just happened a little bit ago as we're recording this. But obviously, we have other topics to talk about that aren't necessarily related to that, but it's been an eventful week in law. But first, we should talk just real quick. Note that we've got a few more firms that have given some fall bonuses between Wilkie and Aiken.
Yep.
So that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that not everyone is just blindly following Cravath. That there are some folks that still see the value in giving people money early.
Yeah, and it's a sign that the economy is turning around for the attorneys. And have you ever wondered? Have you? Have you ever wondered how
every week around this time I start to wonder.
You start to wonder right now.
I start to wonder what law firms have done.
Have you wondered? Have you wondered how law firms weathered previous economic downturns and come out stronger on the other side? LexisNexis Interaction has released an in-depth global research report confronting the 2020 downturn, lessons learned during previous economic crises. Download your free copy at interaction.com/likealawyer to see tips, strategies, plans, and statistics from leaders who have been through this before and how they've reached success again. So going from all of that, we should talk about what's actually the big story of the week for us.
Okay.
Not a big law firm, not a Supreme Court justice.
Is it big at all?
Well, there's a question about whether it's big. It's important. I don't know how big it is. We, of course.
Well, I mean, because some people know though exactly how big it is.
A lot of people do know.
Unfortunately, too many people found out exactly how big it is.
Yes. So, as we record these shows, utilizing Zoom, I am here to just convey to you that I am fully clothed right now, which makes us different than, say, a certain legal analyst who's of great renown on cable news. So Jeffrey Toobin this week has been apparently fired from The New Yorker and is on a leave from CNN and doesn't appear to be doing a lot of stuff right now because he was conducting, it's
personal business.
Personal business on the company dime. Yeah, that's the way to put it.
That is a way to put it, that's for sure.
That is a way. Yeah, so Jeffrey Toobin was doing a Zoom conference with people from WNYC and The New Yorker, where he worked until recently, and
very recently.
They were doing a simulation of the election, which I didn't...
Simulation of something, I guess.
Didn't quite understand what the logic of this simulation was. Like, he played the courts in a simulation of the election. I don't even know what that means, but whatever. So they were doing a dry run of some sort of weird simulation. He did not understand how maybe the camera works.
So, okay, yes. He definitely did not understand how the camera works. That is 100% accurate. But let's back up a second.
Okay, we're backing up.
Just a half second. Because regardless of whether or not your camera is currently recording, there are some things you should not be doing when you're in the middle of a work call. I don't care how boring it is. Listen, before I was a podcaster / blogger, I was a lawyer. I worked at legal technology companies. I'm telling you, I've been in boring meetings in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. Never, ever, ever, even once has the thought occurred to me in lieu of actually.
Hey, I could be masturbating right now?
Yeah, that just never even crossed my mind.
Yes. Well, apparently it does cross Jeffrey Toobin's mind, allegedly and seemingly confirmed to the extent he is in no way countering this
And I mean,
narrative.
People saw it,
Yeah.
right? It's not like oh, something happened behind closed doors. Like he was on a work Zoom call with his camera on, jerking off.
That is apparently what has happened. Yes, that is
the information we currently have.
That is what's happened. And look, as I put it, like I'm on a lot of bad calls a lot of times. I mean, we
Sure,
work together. I am on calls with you.
Okay, friend.
No, I was saying that more as in the kind of calls I'm on. I'm not saying any. I'm not
what you
making
meant.
any
That's
aspersions.
That's not what you meant.
Okay.
That's not what you meant.
See, I
That's not what you meant.
I feel I'm being
Do
maligned.
you?
here.
Well, you should. First of all, you should.
Okay.
Second of all, it was what you were saying. You were trying to malign me, not the opposite.
Anyway,
come on. I don't want these non-committal grunting noises. I don't know what you're doing when you're just grunting over there.
That's fair. That's fair. No, and that's a good point. Point well taken. I doff my hat to you. And doff my hat is a euphemism. No. So, look. So I've been on.
I'm gonna cough. That is not COVID. That is not COVID.
No,
that is
fine.
allergies.
Yeah.
In the last year or so, I've had allergy testing. I found out I'm allergic to the mold that grows between wet leaves when they fall from the trees and they gather in piles. There's apparently a mold that grows in between the leaves, and that is something I'm allergic to. And I recently had a COVID test because I thought my allergies were in fact COVID.
Fair enough. And they were not. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, look, I'm on a lot of calls with you that are not particularly entertaining.
That is accurate.
And I make the jerk off motion a lot, but I'm doing it just because I'm annoyed at the conversation.
Sure.
And
you're also trying to pantomiming what you think the other people are doing, and they're doing it like an intellectual masturbation.
Right.
Not
yes,
it's physical.
Figurative. It's the distinction that exists between figurative and literal in this world. And, we feel as though maybe if you're bored with a simulation, you can
do anything besides jerk off.
Yeah. I mean, look.
First of all, just the kind of ridiculous self-importance you must have in order...
Emphasis on self, yeah.
Fair. That you must have in order to think that that's an appropriate way to deal with any work situation.
Right. Now we're transitioning to kind of the serious conversation, part of the conversation, yeah.
I mean, it is still gobsmacking. Like, I have in my lifetime spent almost 24 hours in a row in an office. I've slept underneath my desk, and I never thought, you know what this is? This is a really good time to jerk off.
Yeah.
Also, because I was in a fucking office, right?
Right.
Like, it was wildly inappropriate. I've never even crossed my mind.
Yeah. And I hear the words office, but even in this pandemic-y world where you're at home, there's something of a mental barrier between what you're doing for work and not.
Not for him.
But the real issue is there's a number of people in the media. It will surprise no one at all to know that they're men in the media who are trying this rehabilitation process already, trying to say
it's a little too soon.
Shouldn't we, just say that this was embarrassing and let him go? And the answer to that is no, because this is sexual harassment. Like that's what this is.
Yes.
It is not something. It doesn't matter that he didn't intend to do it or whatever. But like when he's doing this sort of stuff,
I mean, he did intend. He did.
He intended to do it.
Right,
I don't think it was accidental.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. And initially, it came out after it was a couple hours after the initial story broke that what he was actually doing was revealed. Initially, it was just that he somehow revealed himself inappropriately, or something inappropriate happened on the call, and the exact specifics were not yet known. And I can imagine, particularly in a pandemic world, a situation where somebody's wearing boxers and stands up quickly or something happens where they didn't mean to reveal themselves but reveal themselves, and I that is a very different, that is an inadvertent instance. The consequences, there were still consequences, but I think very different. It's not like you accidentally like pull over the bottle of lotion and look what happened.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Right? This is a very deliberate action that he took.
Yes. Yeah, no, and it's
not, and so it's not like, oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh, embarrassing is like, when I was in grade school,
this is going a weird direction.
No, the strap on my bra broke.
Okay.
Strap on my bra. And that is something that was inadvertent. It was very embarrassing. I would hate for people to bring it up years later or get fired as a result of something like that, where it's beyond sort of your control and it's something embarrassing happens to you.
Right.
These things happen. That is part of the human condition. Embarrassment is part of it. It is fine. That is a very different situation than deliberately revealing yourself.
Right. And I originally, when I heard this, I posited the idea that this was some sort of an accident when somebody was just not professionally dressed, but nonetheless taking it seriously, which can happen.
But that's the sort of thing that in the world of COVID, I think is...
Right, could happen. But I mean, I flagged at the time that I felt it might become something worse, which it then did, when Toobin's statement about it was that he apologized to his wife, which seemed like not a thing you would do if you accidentally had,
something he is well practiced at.
Yeah, true. So this leaves now a hole for, yeah, no, I did not, that one I didn't even, yeah, no. This leaves now a hole in space where there were legal analysis on CNN and in various other outlets. It seems as though this might be a good time for these networks to consider branching out and bringing on other voices to do these sorts of timely and important legal analysis. There are several
at abovethelaw.com.
Well, there's definitely that. Of course, we're always available. I haven't done much legal analysis since Al Jazeera America went under. I definitely hitched my start to being a legal analyst for that network, and that unfortunately didn't pan out.
Didn't pan out.
But there's some real gems that I had while I was there. But still, but yes, no, obviously we're available. But more importantly, I think that our colleagues are available. Obviously, Ellie, former co-host of this show, is around. There's plenty of people you can go to. So we're making that pitch to anybody in the media who's listening, looking to book people that, we've got between us and more importantly, thinking like the lawyer alums out there for people to go talk to. But yeah, though this is all
real life.
This is
all real life.
So speaking of tools, what?
Go ahead.
If you work with contracts and don't use contract tools, you're missing a lot. Save time, make more money, and do a better job for your clients with Contract Tools by Paper Software. Contract Tools is the most powerful word add-in for working with contracts. Thousands of lawyers all over the world rely on Contract Tools every day for every kind of deal. Visit papersoftware.com to watch a demo and get a free trial. As a special offer to podcast listeners, use coupon code LTN2020 to get 1 month free. That's papersoftware.com and LTN2020. So we also we just heard from speaking of courts, obviously we have the new justice situation, but we also heard that Biden has proposed his response to this question that's out there about court expansion / packing, and basically what is the plan to deal with the future of the courts after this ACB nomination inevitably is confirmed. What will the next administration, and at this point, barring something insane happening before you hear this, we mean next administration, what is the next administration going to do about this? And apparently the answer is talk about it a bit.
Okay. First of all, I have a slightly different take than you do. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, can you, without editorializing, just kind of give a brief, this is what the Biden plan is?
Yes. So in a interview with Norah O'Donnell, Joe Biden says that his response to the court reform issue, which earlier he had said back in the beginning of the year, he had said he was opposed to the idea of court expansion.
Sure, because it's been well maligned throughout history.
Right. Then he took on more of a stance in those town halls of, well, it depends on what happens with this nomination.
Sure.
I'm leaving my options open, but the implication being then, that he would do something. Now, the more concrete answer that he's offering is that he would put together a bipartisan commission of constitutional scholars and practitioners and liberals and conservatives to talk about what court reform might look like.
Okay, so your take is?
It's the ultimate brush-off move, right? This is the definition of we're going to appoint a committee to talk about something is the way in which governments and officials say this is something we don't really care about and we're going to bury it somewhere. It is a blow off of it. It signals that there's not that it actually, as opposed to signaling that, hey, this is an important thing we want to look at, it actually sends the opposite message. It sends the message, I can't be bothered to have an opinion about what to do, so let's just defer this to some other time. It also, to the extent that it is being advertised as bipartisan, is a recipe for a failure to get any progress on it. There are scholars who've already written about it. You can read about it yourself. You can figure out a good idea, and then you can advocate for it. It just seems like a lackluster response, which is particularly bad politics in a world where, if you think, as I do, that the undecided voter more or less doesn't exist, but to the extent they exist, they clearly don't care what your policies are, because otherwise they wouldn't be undecided,
Right.
but rather that you have policies, that you are somebody who is willing to take stands and have principles and whatever. And the idea that my response to this very weighty issue is punt seems like a problem.
See, I mean, I would think I would definitely prefer a candidate that had a more bold, more definitive plan, but I don't think that it, first of all, is a brush off. I think that although Americans generally don't like committees, what they do love is bipartisan support. They love a good bipartisan recommendation. And I think it'll depend which scholars from both sides of the aisle wind up being, or whoever winds up filling out this committee, assuming that there is a Biden administration, knock on wood. But I do think that bipartisan sort of efforts are wildly popular. So I think that that is definitely something that I think could be good. I also think that it also is a very strong signal that why we'll treat it differently than the current Trump administration. Biden's whole reason why he got the nomination in the first instance is like return to normal. Let's go back, right? And we've had a tremendous amount of upheaval in the country just politically in terms of norms, in terms of all this kind of stuff that's happened. And I think that what he's trying to signal, perhaps not as articulately as it could be signaled, but what he's trying to signal is like we need to get back to a level of professionalism, a level of thoughtfulness, and we can't be bold for the sake of being bold. We have to be very deliberate in our actions, and that's a Biden brand, you know. And I get it. I will kind of reserve my final judgment to see who's actually on, the committee, but I think that there are a lot of not necessarily Republican, because I think that it's become too partisan, but I do think there's a lot of conservative legal scholars who might be much more willing to engage in actual discussion. I don't know, but it'll be interesting.
I'm going to push back on the idea that people like bipartisanship.
Okay.
There's no real evidence of this. We constantly have these situations where, Democrats get elected and say, we're going to put a Republican in the cabinet because blah, blah, blah. And they do all these overtures. And then the response is the Republicans say, we don't do any of that. We got elected. Screw you. And this doesn't seem to change anyone's opinion one way or the other.
Sure. And I think
there's just like the myth of the undecided voter, and they do exist, but they are a very increasingly small number of people, is people don't actually care about bipartisanship. The vast majority of people who vote in the country choose one side or the other consistently. And to the extent there's people in the middle, there's no evidence to suggest that showing kindness and generosity to the other side is the way to bring them on board. We just don't see it, no matter what people say.
I think that I'm not saying that's untrue, but I do think that the average kind of Democratic voter actually puts a value on bipartisanship, even though they're clearly in one category. There is a certain segment of sort of the Clinton, Obama kind of world that puts a strong value on bipartisanship as a value and compromise as a value.
I agree with that, but I think I'm one of these people who thinks that the value they put on it is they think it is persuasive to some undecided population that I don't think is true. I think this is a myth that has become conventional wisdom among them, and that in reality, it doesn't result in any picking up undecided voters. And if they knew for a fact that it did not do that, they wouldn't hold this value. But alas, it just seems as though this was a bit of a punt, which is annoying, especially because
it's annoying, but I also think it's probably not going to change anyone's opinion.
Right. I mean, look, I'm
record numbers of people have already voted.
Sure, but it's not about the voting as much as, which actually
interesting
doubles down, proves my point, right? To the extent it's not about the voting, then there's really no logic in trying to pitch this we're going to be bipartisan garbage. But yeah, I think that I am not one of these folks who believes that court expansion should be the first response. I think it's a bad idea as a matter of reform. I think that there are major reforms that need to happen to the courts, but that's not a particularly good or targeted one, and that there are other options available. But I don't think there needs to be a commission to flesh them out. They're out there. We've all written about them. I write like these kind of pop culture-ish articles about them for like the masses, but,
sure, but Lawrence
scholars,
Tribe,
scholars are writing this. It's
Sure.
out there. It is known. You don't need a commission to flesh this out, especially when you consider that the kinds of people who would end up on a commission of practitioners and so on and so forth are people who are, doing good work, but are functionally lobbyists, right? They are people who represent powerful interests in what they want to do, and that's how they want this court structured so that they can continue to do that. And, that's all well and good, but not necessarily the people who should be invited into the reform discussion. Anyway.
But I will
just
say,
seems bad.
but I also think that like if it's focused as there will be court reform, what should the reform be? That is already left of center.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I'm not sure it begins with that discussion is the problem.
Well, sure.
I think that's a
I guess
precondition that
that's
you're
fair.
putting
That's
on
fair.
it that would
Yeah.
be more favorable. Anyway, alas, it's not encouraging.
It's not the best thing I've ever heard, but far from the worst news of the day.
Yeah, no, it's just
Yeah, I mean,
there's
I hear
there's
what
a
you're
lot written out there, and they can just figure it out on their own. Speaking of finding things that are well written, that are written and probing the record.
Sure.
Are you looking for a true alternative to LexisNexis or Westlaw? You could save thousands this year if you switched to Casetext. Over 7,000 law firms, from solos to 40% of the AmLaw 100, use Casetext for legal research. Above the Law podcast listeners can go to casetext.com/Above the Law podcast to try Casetext for free for 2 weeks. For $65 per month, you'll get access to 50 state and federal case law, statutes, and more with 0 out-of-plan fees. Free for 2 weeks at casetext.com/Above the Law podcast. So, continuing our occasional conversations about weird and troubling scandals in this world, there was a deposition that got released.
Oh, yeah. The Ghislaine Maxwell case, obviously associate of Jeffrey Epstein, and is currently facing charges, 6 federal charges, including inducing a minor to commit illegal sex acts. So, not great for her. So previous to that, she had given a deposition in 2016 in a defamation case about the underlying allegations, and the Miami Herald sued for a copy of the deposition as well as other documents, and it was released today. Dun, dun, dun. And Slate pretty quickly put out an article being like, we have cracked the code, because obviously there have been privacy redactions made in the publicly released documents, and they have figured them out.
So this happens a lot.
It happens.
So
yeah.
And now I'm going to speak to your kind of EDiscovery background here.
Yes.
So as a journalist, one of the things that you often do when you see a released document that's been redacted, what's the first thing that I as a journalist do when I get a redacted document?
Copy and paste.
That's right. I select all and then paste it into something, because there's unfortunately a high number of people, or actually fortunately from my perspective, a high number of people that remain stupid enough to think that putting the little redaction things
Box
on the
top.
document on top of it means that it disappears forever. But if you copy and paste it, that just appears as a little bit of code next to the original text, and you can just read the document pure.
Yes. And so when I saw Slate's headline, we've cracked the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition, I was like, copy and paste strikes again.
But thankfully,
Slightly different.
some people seem to have figured out that is that's a thing, and they
well,
did.
Lots of people have figured it out,
Right,
but
and they did not do that.
They did
here.
not.
They
They
did.
did not.
They correctly redacted. So good for them.
Yay!
So how did they screw this up in another boneheaded way?
Well, there's an index.
Right, because depositions have indexes at the end. Well, surely they would have redacted the names that they were supposed to redact in the index
They did.
too.
They did.
Well, yeah. Okay, they did.
They
Okay,
did.
well then why would they be able to crack it then?
Well, a bunch of different reasons. So part of it is because And it's alphabetized.
Oh, the alphabet.
The alphabet.
Oh, new technology is getting people every day. The alphabet.
The alphabet. So for one of the examples, they were able to piece together the word that was redacted in the index. It was right before clock.
Right. It was before clock and right after, like, clap or something like that. And it's like, what name?
Words that have been implicated. So it has to be a proper name, right? Because it's privacy protection, so it's proper name. Who has been implicated in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal?
Discussions.
Yeah.
So this could be Clinton.
Oh, you get a prize.
And, it could actually be easier to figure out when it's revealed that sometimes that name comes up without being a privacy issue, meaning that they could cross-reference.
Actually, I believe in the Clinton example, it appears to be, they actually refer to President Clinton. It seems as if it was on page 135, it seems like it should have been redacted. I don't know why that particular page is not redacted. But when they were talking about Prince Andrew, that's another one that they were able to crack. He was also implicated in the scandal, and it's Andrew and Andrews plural have both been pieced together, have both been redacted. And part of the way they're able to figure it out is that one of the attorney's office is on North Andrews Boulevard.
Oh my God!
And so that's not redacted properly.
But does show up as one of the things.
But it does appear in the index.
Because the index is computer generated, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yes, so that appears in the index. So they're able to piece together that is Andrews. So they're able to figure it out that way. Alan Dershowitz, they were able to put together because both Alan and Dershowitz are separately indexed. And you can see from that context, the only AL word and DE word that kind of makes sense. Particularly, there are several instances of them appearing right next to one another.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the practice pointer section of the show, where we talk to people about how when you're redacting things, perhaps a smart move would be not to send it out in a way where if we copy and paste it, we can figure everything out. But additionally, the alphabet can trip you up, especially if there's a computer-generated index. So
paying attention to what's in the index, redacting the actual citations that the index has would, also help as well. So if all the page numbers were redacted, you wouldn't be able to say this particular redaction is on this particular page. So that might be a way to do it better for the next time.
Run the thing through the indexer again, but after all of the redactions are in it, this would be another option.
Yes.
There's a plethora, if you will, of ways that you could have done this without giving journalists a basically unredacted copy. But
and there's a bunch of others that they figured out, and with a call, Slate has made a call to figure out even more, because it's just about having the time to figure out the context and deciding that it's worth it.
Look, I feel bad for whoever is the low person on the totem pole whose job it was to do this, but this is a life lesson. If you're out there in litigation in particular, there will be a time when you are asked to put together a redacted copy of something. And this is why we talk about this. This is why we tell you, hey, don't let it be this thing to be copy and paste. Don't, let this happen.
And I mean, listen.
Or do as journalists and say fine. But as your friends, as lawyer friends, we tell you.
Yeah, and I will say that, except for the Clinton example, it seems as if, the redactions were done correctly, but very by the letter of the negotiated terms, as opposed to looking and thinking about what you're trying to actually protect. And it's good. A lot of times things like, and I have spent in my lifetime lots, like hundreds, probably thousands of hours of my life making redactions. That is just a fact of my life. Thousands of hours I've spent redacting documents. But you have to, and it's boring and it's time consuming. I've had to redact 1,000-page spreadsheets. Talk about awful. But you have to, as much as boring and as time consuming as it may be, you have to think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if there's, when you're in there and you're making redactions, like, listen, I'm just doing what I was told. I was told to redact every instance of the word, and, I was every instance. I'm just doing what I was told, but not thinking about what it looks like to new eyes that are getting it. You're doing your ultimate client a disservice.
Yep. And with that very serious note, I think we should wrap it up here because we've gone. Thank you for listening. You should be subscribed to the show. You should give it reviews, stars, as well as write something. Writing shows engagement, and that shows the podcasting overlords that people enjoy the show and gets us into more indices that say, hey, this is a law show and people should listen to it. So that's very good and would be a huge help. You should be reading Above the Law, as always. You should be following. I'm at Joseph Patrice. She's at Catherine1, the numeral 1, both on Twitter. You should be listening to her show, The Jabot. You can also check me out on the Legal Tech Weekly Roundup. You should be listening to the other offerings of the Legal Talk Network. And you should... What else? Anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that is it. So thank you again, of course, to Contract Tools by Paper Software. And with all of that said, we will check in with you all sometime next week.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. You can also find us at AboveTheLaw.com, ATLRedline.com, iTunes, RSS, Twitter, and Facebook. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.
I was trying not to. It's just that particular transition
All right,
is fantastic.
Stop. All
Okay.
right. Out.
Are you going to handle the rest of it solo? Are
no.
you going to pull a Toobin?
No. God.
This is our best show ever.
And I'm sure no one's going to hear any of it. Okay. Are you quite done? Are you quite done, madam?